In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to train for your first century. My name is Dr. Story. I've been a chiropractor for over 24 years. I've been a cyclist for over 40 years. And I'm going to tell you in this video how exactly to train for your first century. Now, a century is 100 miles, and for most people, it's a very daunting task. And the reason why is because it's essentially like a marathon to running. It's a long way. It is a challenge. But I'm going to teach you how to train for your first century so that you do not feel as though you're basically destroyed at the end of the thing. So the first thing you want to do is obviously make sure and have a bike and a helmet and all these different things and be riding. Now, let's pretend that you are only riding about 10 miles at a time. This is often enough for a beginner when you first start, but your goal is to ride 100 miles. How do you do it? Well, you need to first of all plan on when you're going to actually do the century and then backtrack your training. So to give you an idea, my recommendation would be to ride your bike at least 3 times per week. Now, only one of those rides, as far as training is concerned, is going to be an actual long ride. So every time you do your long ride, which for most people because of timing is on the weekend, unless your schedule is something different than for most people, 1 time per week you're going to ride a what's called long ride. And what this means is you're going to try to increase each ride by 5 miles. So if you're riding only 10 miles right now, and that's the maximum you could do, then next week on the weekend you're going to ride 15 miles. The following week you'll ride 20 miles. The third week you'll try to ride 25 miles and so forth, and you'll keep increasing each week. Now, about once a month or once every 6 weeks or so, you'll take 1 week and maybe not ride as long or as hard depending on your fatigue level. But 1 time per week you're going to do that, and you're going to increase that mileage 5 miles at a time until you hit about 80 miles. So you just have to, wherever you're starting right now, you just have to do the math and figure out how long it'll actually take you to achieve 80 miles. 80 miles is the amount of miles that you want to be able to ride before you attempt your first century. That's a good ballpark of knowing that you can make it to the 100-mile mark. Now, why do we not increase 10 miles or 15 miles per week? Because you want your body to adapt very slowly to the stresses that you're putting upon it. If you were to increase 10 miles per week at an average speed of about 15 miles per hour, you're talking an extra 40 minutes per week. Well, you might be able to muster through that next week or one more time, but as time goes on, it's almost like putting weights on a barbell and lifting and bench pressing too much too quickly. You don't want to get injured and you don't want to overstrain your body. 5 miles, which is about 20 minutes per week, increase on your long ride is enough to stimulate change in your body so that your body will adapt comfortably to those changes, and thus you'll be able to ride more comfortably. Now, what do you do for the other 2 rides during the week? I would recommend to ride about 1 hour. And one of those rides, you should be trying to do some intervals. Now, what is an interval? Going faster than you normally would. Now, there's many ways to do intervals and many different techniques and philosophies of how to do it. But what I would recommend for an hour ride is to ride somewhere for about 20 minutes as kind of a warm-up, and then try to ride a lot faster than you normally would for about 1 minute. Then, when you're done with that minute, slow down and just pedal easily for about a minute. And then, once that minute is over, try to pedal really fast in a somewhat difficult gear, going faster than you normally would for that 1 minute. And you're going to repeat 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And you'll do that for about 10 repetitions. And that will help increase your speed and increase your muscular strength. The third ride, which should be another hour, you could do this during the week, you should be smiling during this ride. Don't forget, the most important thing about riding a century and training for a century is you should be having some fun. So on the third ride, which should be kind of an easy 1 hour ride just to get the legs going, will be done during the week. So you'll do 2 rides per week and 1 ride on the weekend. Now, if you have time or your family will allow you to do it, you're certainly welcome to ride another ride on the weekend. I would recommend doing your long ride on a Saturday and your easy extra ride on a Sunday. So as you build up that long ride and eventually you get to about 80 miles, you are now prepared to ride your Century. You want to ride that 80 miles about 2 weeks prior to the scheduled event of doing the Century. The reason why is the most important thing you could do when you try to ride a Century to make it fun for you is to actually be rested. So that following 2 weeks, you can maybe ride a 50-mile ride as the long ride a week before your Century. The other rides will simply be hour easy rides, and that way you'll be fully prepared for the Century. Now, how are you going to do the last 20 miles? A lot of times, and I'll make other videos about this as far as pacing and nutrition, if you can ride 80 miles, you're going to be able to muscle through another 20 just based on your motivation. So if you thought this video was beneficial to you, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, hit that bell notification button, and you'll be notified of further videos.